Something deep within you has been stirring lately, a quiet unease that no one else can see. You can feel it when the world around you falls silent, like a whisper that something greater is trying to reach you. That feeling is not random. It is a message, a divine signal that most people ignore until life forces them to pay attention. I am Shi Heng Yi, and today we'll explore one of the most misunderstood truths about the divine. When God seems upset, it's not through punishment or chaos, it's through silence. In the Shaolin path, silence is not emptiness, it is communication in its purest form. The stillness between your thoughts carries guidance that your ears cannot hear. In this video, you'll learn how divine energy speaks long before life brings challenges. We'll uncover how Shaolin masters train to sense the invisible shifts in energy, the same shifts that signal when we are falling out of harmony with the universe. You'll understand why silence can be more powerful than any prayer, and how moments of discomfort are not signs of failure, but sacred invitations to realign. We'll go beyond familiar teachings. I'll share ancient perspectives that few know, how the discipline of inner stillness once helped monks interpret nature's signs as messages from heaven. You'll see how breath, awareness, and presence can tune your spirit back to the divine frequency. So stay until the very end, because the moment you begin to recognize these silent signals, your entire relationship with life changes. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire, where wisdom meets awakening. If you seek clarity, strength, and connection with the divine flow, subscribe now and walk this path with us. There comes a time in every seeker's life when the world begins to lose its color. The things that once brought joy start to feel empty. Relationships grow distant, purpose fades, and even silence feels cold. This is the shadow of disconnection, the quiet space where the soul can no longer hear the song of its source. In Shaolin teaching, we do not call this divine punishment, we call it distance. When a person drifts away from awareness, from compassion, or from disciplined living, the universe simply mirrors that state back to them. The outer world begins to echo the chaos within. Long ago, my teacher told me, when your movements lose rhythm, it is not the floor that has changed, it is your breath that has forgotten its harmony. The same is true in life. When our thoughts lose rhythm with truth, when our actions no longer carry intention, the energy around us grows heavy. God's anger is not fire or destruction, it is the absence of flow, the loss of inner alignment. You may notice it as confusion, fatigue, or the feeling that nothing you do seems to work. These are not curses, they are signals. In Shaolin practice, we learn to recognize them as sacred feedback. Life is showing us where we have stopped listening, where we have replaced presence with noise. The moment we return to awareness, even through one deep breath, the distance begins to close. The divine never leaves us, we are the ones who wander. But the path back is always waiting, silent and patient, until we remember who we truly are. That remembrance is where reconnection begins. There is an ancient Shaolin saying, the world does not punish you, it reflects you. Every movement, every word, every thought sends a vibration into existence, and what returns is simply its echo. When a person acts without intention, the energy of their actions ripples outward, carrying confusion, tension, and imbalance. The universe, in its quiet precision, mirrors that same energy back, not as punishment but as a lesson. In the monastery, the young disciples were taught to sweep the courtyard with full awareness. If their mind wandered, the dust would return moments later, carried by the wind. The task was never about cleaning the ground, it was about cleaning the self. Each gesture was a mirror. Every careless motion revealed where the mind had fallen asleep. In life, the same principle unfolds. When we act from anger, we attract conflict. When we move with kindness, life opens like water before us. God's upset is the reflection of imbalance, the reminder that our actions are no longer aligned with the wisdom we already hold. Inner mastery begins when one observes their own reflection without denial. Instead of blaming the mirror, the practitioner refines their movement. Discipline becomes sacred, not because it controls, but because it clarifies. Each intentional action polishes the mirror of the heart until the divine light can once again be seen clearly. To walk the Shaolin path is to understand that nothing external truly rewards or punishes us. The entire universe is feedback, gentle, exact, and unwavering. When your actions begin to align with truth, harmony follows naturally. The mirror clears, the reflection softens, and what once felt like divine anger is revealed to be divine guidance, quietly pointing you back to your own center. There are moments in life when everything seems to repeat, the same mistakes, the same disappointments, the same restless patterns that keep circling back. Most people call it bad luck, but the wise call it a lesson unlearned. In the Shaolin path, we are taught that when the student refuses to see, the teacher does not disappear. The teacher simply changes form. Sometimes the teacher arrives as silence, other times as challenge, a missed opportunity, a broken plan, an unexpected ending, all are signs wrapped in the language of circumstance. Each event whispers the same question: will you finally listen? In the ancient monastery, students would practice a single movement for months. The master would watch, quietly as impatience began to grow. When a disciple rushed, he would trip. When he tried to impress, he would lose balance. The master never scolded. He simply said, "The form will teach you when you stop fighting it." Every fall was a message, every mistake a mirror. Life works in the same rhythm. The delays you resist, the endings you grieve, the conflicts you replay, they are not punishment. They are divine correction, guiding you back toward awareness. When we ignore these signs, the lessons return louder and heavier, not out of cruelty, but out of love. Inner mastery begins when you recognize the difference between pain and guidance. The disciplined mind does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" It asks, "What is this trying to show me?" The moment you ask that, the teacher within awakens. For as long as you walk blind to life's subtle messages, the same storms will find you. But once you see, truly see, even the hardest moments become sacred conversations between you and the divine. There is a quiet strength that comes from living with discipline. Not the kind that restricts, but the kind that refines. In the Shaolin way, discipline is not about force. It is about remembering who you are through every action, every breath, every choice. When the divine feels distant, it is often because we have allowed our energy to scatter. Discipline gathers it again. Long ago, monks in the temple rose before dawn. They did not question the bell or resist the cold. Their bodies moved like flowing water, each gesture filled with awareness. The purpose was never perfection, it was presence. Every movement, from sweeping the floor to standing still, became an offering to heaven. Through this sacred routine, chaos within the mind slowly dissolved, and harmony was restored. When we drift from discipline, life becomes noisy. Thoughts pull us in every direction. Habits lose meaning. We speak without care and act without purpose. This is when divine energy begins to waver, not out of anger, but as reflection. The universe mirrors our inconsistency, showing us how far we've moved from our own truth. True discipline is a form of love, an agreement with the self to remain awake. It asks for honesty, consistency, and respect for the unseen forces that shape our days. Every small act of order, a focused breath, a mindful meal, a word spoken with integrity creates balance in the unseen world. When your actions align with your highest intention, even simple routines become sacred rituals. This is how divine harmony returns. Not through grand gestures or miracles, but through quiet devotion lived moment by moment. Discipline becomes energy refined, and through that refinement, the presence of God is once again felt, not above you but within you. There is a heaviness that words cannot name, a quiet pressure that builds in the heart when emotions remain unspoken. The Shaolin masters call this the weight of unexpressed energy. It hides behind the face of calm, but it lives within the breath, tightening it, clouding the mind, dimming the light of the spirit. In the old temples, students were taught that silence is not suppression. True silence is clear and alive, but suppressed silence carries shadows. When resentment, guilt, or fear are held for too long, they turn into stagnant energy. Like still water, they begin to breed confusion and pain. The monks would say, to hold what must be released is to poison your own stream. Every emotion is movement. Anger wants transformation. Grief seeks expression. Even fear asks only to be seen. When we refuse them space, they lodge themselves within the body. Tight shoulders, restless thoughts, shallow breath. This is why Shaolin practice begins with inner cleaning, breath by breath. The practitioner learns to release what the mind clings to. God's message is often not dramatic or loud. It arrives through discomfort, through unease, through that quiet awareness whispering, "You no longer need to carry this." The divine flow cannot move through a heart crowded with old emotions. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom in motion. Inner mastery means learning to meet your emotions as guests, not as permanent residents. To feel them, to understand their lesson, and to bow as they leave. Each release clears the channel between you and the sacred. When the inner world becomes light again, breath deepens, perception sharpens, and peace quietly returns. The divine never stopped speaking. It was only waiting for the noise within to fade. There are moments when the world feels heavy, when even prayer seems to fall into silence. In such times, the Shaolin masters would remind their students to return to the breath. One deep, conscious breath can restore what endless thoughts cannot. It is the first and most sacred act of realignment, the meeting point between heaven and earth. In the ancient halls, meditation did not begin with chanting or ritual. It began with stillness and breath. The monks believed that the way you breathe is the way you live. A shallow breath reflects a restless mind. A steady breath reveals a centered spirit. Through this awareness, they learned that divine connection was never lost. It only became hidden beneath the noise of constant thinking. The breath carries memory. It remembers peace even when the mind forgets. Each inhale draws in life, and each exhale releases what no longer serves. When practiced with discipline, the breath becomes a silent teacher, guiding the practitioner back to presence. It teaches that there is no distance between the human and the divine, only moments of forgetfulness. In Shaolin tradition, even the smallest pause between breaths holds power. It is the space where awareness rests, where truth can be felt without words. To breathe consciously is to listen, to hear what the universe has been saying all along. When life feels scattered, when faith feels thin, return to this rhythm. The breath will never judge or abandon you. It simply waits, patient and eternal, ready to lead you home. Through it, the sacred and the ordinary merge again, and you remember that God was never far away, only waiting for you to slow down enough to feel His presence within your own chest. There is a subtle power in gentleness that the world often overlooks. The Shaolin masters would say, to master self is to serve all. True strength is not in force or dominance, but in the ability to soften, to open the heart without fear. When God feels distant or upset, it is often because the walls we have built around ourselves through judgment, pride, or resentment block the flow of divine energy. In the monastery, compassion was taught not as an abstract idea, but as a daily practice. A young monk might encounter another who has wronged him. Instead of retaliation, he was asked to observe without anger, to see the suffering behind the action. Each act of understanding, each moment of forgiveness, was a quiet repair to the energy of the world. Compassion does not mean weakness. It is deliberate, disciplined, and powerful. It requires courage to look at oneself honestly, to admit faults, and to forgive. When we extend that same grace to others, we dissolve the invisible barriers that keep us separate from the sacred. The ego resists, insisting on blame or resentment, but discipline of the heart allows the walls to soften. In life, this practice becomes a bridge. Every unkind thought released, every judgment softened, every act of empathy restores balance. The energy that once felt heavy begins to flow again, subtle and alive. Divine presence is no longer distant. It moves freely through the heart that has learned to yield without breaking, to give without expectation. Compassion is the cure, not because it pleases God, but because it restores harmony within. When we master this art, we find that forgiveness and understanding are not just gifts we offer others. They are the keys to reconnecting with the divine, the quiet light that has always been waiting within and around us. There is a moment when the fog of life begins to lift, when the patterns that once controlled us become visible. This is the power of awareness, a clarity that acts like a sword, cutting through illusion, self-deception, and fear. In the Shaolin path, awareness is not born from force or study alone, it is cultivated through observation, patience, and disciplined presence. In the ancient monastery, students would sit for hours in silent meditation, watching the rise and fall of their thoughts as if they were clouds passing across the sky. Each distraction, each restless impulse revealed a place where the mind had fallen asleep. The masters taught that every moment of observation was an opportunity to awaken. Pain, mistakes, and failure were never punishments. They were mirrors showing the gaps in perception. To be aware is to see clearly the currents that shape one's life. When spiritual slumber is recognized, the path forward emerges naturally. Awareness transforms what once seemed like suffering into guidance. It teaches that the discomfort we feel is often a compass pointing to where realignment is needed. Every fear, every regret, every fleeting desire becomes an instruction if we are awake enough to perceive it. Shaolin practice emphasizes that true mastery is never external. It begins with knowing the self, its tendencies, its shadows, and its capacity for growth. Awareness sharpens the mind, steadies the heart, and opens the soul. Through it, the divine is no longer distant or abstract. It is felt directly in the clarity of each choice, each breath, each step taken consciously. The sword of awareness does not wound. It liberates. It removes the illusions that keep us trapped in repetitive patterns and illuminates the divine intention behind every challenge. Awakening is never punishment. It is the quiet unveiling of truth, guiding the seeker back to harmony, presence, and inner mastery. There is a quiet moment when the heart remembers its path, when the noise of distraction fades and clarity gently returns. This is the essence of returning to alignment, not through striving for perfection, but through presence. The divine does not demand flawless action. It asks only that we awaken to the truth of each moment and step forward with awareness. In Shaolin practice, mastery is measured not by feats of strength, but by the discipline of returning. A monk who stumbles during training is not shamed, he is invited to rise, to correct, and to continue with humility. Every misstep becomes an opportunity to reconnect with intention, every lapse a chance to refine the spirit. Life, like training, is a series of corrections, each leading closer to harmony. Returning to alignment begins with truthfulness to oneself, to others, and to the world around us. It is expressed in mindful words, deliberate actions, and choices that honor the sacred connection within. Even small acts, when performed with integrity, ripple outward, restoring balance where it was lost. The Shaolin way teaches that courage is not in never falling, but in having the strength to return again and again. The mind and body are guides, reflecting the distance from or closeness to this alignment. When breath, movement, and thought synchronize with intention, the heart opens and divine energy flows freely. Humility becomes the bridge between human limitation and spiritual awakening, reminding us that perfection is illusion, but presence is real. Every moment offers the choice to realign. Each conscious step brings peace, clarity, and harmony. The path is never truly lost. It waits patiently for those willing to notice, to bow in honesty, and to return. In returning, we discover that mastery is not an achievement, but a living practice of presence, courage, and grace, allowing the sacred to move freely through the life we live. God's upset is not a punishment. It is love speaking through subtle signs, guiding us back to our true path. The universe is always reaching out, asking us to pause, to breathe, and to notice where our energy has drifted. Through stillness, conscious breath, disciplined action, and compassionate hearts, we begin to realign with the sacred flow of life. Shaolin wisdom teaches us that true mastery comes not from force, but from presence. Every thought, every action, and every choice carries energy. When we live with awareness, we transform challenges into guidance and obstacles into lessons. The divine does not seek to harm. It calls us to awaken, to remember, and to honor the connection that exists within and around us. Take these practices into your daily life. Observe your breath, act with intention, release what no longer serves you, and extend compassion without expectation. In these small mindful moments, harmony returns naturally, and the quiet call of the divine becomes clear. Heaven moves through still hearts, and peace grows where awareness lives. Let this wisdom guide you gently, reminding you that divine messages are always present, waiting for you to listen. If this message resonates, join us on this path of awakening. Like this video, subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire, and step into a life of clarity, presence, and inner mastery.